The Indo-Pacific is in a flux, new alignments, old anxieties, and a region where every word has consequences. In this backdrop, how is the India-Australia relationship shaping up? To discuss that and more, I have with me the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Australia, Ms. Penny Wong. Minister Wong, welcome to Firstpost.
It's great to be here.
We'll talk about all the things I discussed, but first I want to ask you, how is the bilateral relationship after India beat Australia, decimating Australia, both in the men's and women's cricket this year?
That's harsh, very harsh. Well, congratulations, and as you said, your women and men both did really well, but, we'll be back. We'll be back.
Is this something that comes up in conversations?
Cricket often comes up, and obviously in Australia we're pretty focused on the cricket, and we're about to go into our summer, so we will have the Test series as well. But no, it was a great result, particularly for you women.
Yes,
I think. Yeah.
Would you call India your most reliable strategic partner in the Indo-Pacific today?
We think India is our critical strategic partner, and what we would say is this. You said, I think in your introduction, we have old anxieties. I think there are a few new anxieties. And so at a time of uncertainty and change, our strategic convergence is ever more important and our partnership is ever stronger. We want to be a reliable partner for India. We recognise India is a leading power in the region, a leading power in the world, fastest growing large economy, and is critical to stability in our region.
And I believe that there's been a lot of development on trade talks. Where are they at, expanding the FTA and the other conversations that the two sides have had?
Look, Don Farrell, who's our minister, has been engaging with his counterparts. But I would make this point: those economic ties matter a lot, but we shouldn't see our economic ties as only about those trade agreements. We have economic engagement, economic partnership across the board, and we should continue to grow them.
Right. So there's so much talk of strategic closeness and future-focused relationship and so on and so forth. Why are the visa pathways for Indians tightening?
We do see India as central to the sort of region we want, which is peaceful, stable and prosperous. And that's why we place such a great priority on this relationship, and we really do. And we also value greatly the Indians who come to Australia to study, which is why we want to improve the quality of education that they are receiving. So some of the changes you are describing have actually been the Australian government saying, look, for all of these countries who send young people to Australia, we want to make sure their educational outcome is of a high quality.
But the impression is that Indians are facing longer processing times and more scrutiny compared to other nationalities. I
don't think that's right. But I do accept that we have moved, particularly in the education sector, to try and improve our vocational training, which a lot of Indian students did come to Australia for. We want a high quality education for Indians who come to our country.
There's also a rise in hate crime complaints. What is your message to Indian parents who now feel that Australia offers them neither clarity nor security?
I would say that we welcome your sons and your daughters, that we're a country that stands against racism. And you would have seen what the government has said and how we have responded to those incidents. They are unacceptable. Racism is unacceptable. It's unacceptable for us. It's obviously unacceptable because we want visitors to our country to feel safe and enjoy their time in Australia. But also because of who we are. You see, 1 in 2 of us are migrants or children of migrants. And the Indian diaspora is such an important part of the Australian community. So there is no place for racism and discrimination in our country, and we will always work to stand against it.
Is Australia prepared to scale up intelligence sharing with India to the same level that you do with, say, the UK or the US?
Look, we want a deeper strategic partnership with India, and we'll continue to invest in that.
Right. But that has many dimensions.
It does.
And there are concerns that both sides need to address, including Khalistani extremism. Our Independence Day celebrations in Australia were disrupted by some groups. How are you addressing India's concern on that matter?
Look, we understand the sensitivity of these issues, and we've made clear, people in Australia have a right to peaceful protest, but we expect people to be respectful.
Including extremist elements, separatist groups?
Well, law enforcement authorities are authorised to take any appropriate action under the law. We understand the sensitivity of this issue. It's been raised with us. We've been clear that there is a line between peaceful protest and extremism, and we will always ensure that we seek to observe that line in relation to Australians.
And are your Indian counterparts satisfied with that response?
Well, I can't speak for them. I think they are.
In your conversations,
I think they understand. We understand the sensitivity of this, and we don't want our relationship to. And when we come to this relationship, we are both who we are. There's a great deal of strategic convergence. There are also areas where we have a difference of views, or we have a different set of. We have issues we have to manage or issues we have to communicate about. And I think what you see is that we do that. This will be my 26th meeting with Dr. Jaishankar. I count him as a personal friend as well as a professional colleague, and we are able to talk about these issues.
Does Canberra support India's stand on cross-border terrorism, including calling out Pakistan and its proxies?
Well, we stand against terrorism in all its forms, and we understand the concern India has, and I expressed our sympathy and solidarity in the wave of the Pahalgam attack.
Including calling out the groups and the country where these groups are provided a safe haven?
We would stand against terrorism in all its forms.
Where is the Quad? Has it lost momentum?
The Quad has had 2 foreign minister level meetings this year, which does demonstrate the importance that the Quad partners place upon that grouping. What I would say is we obviously would like a leaders meeting, and we hope that one can be arranged next year when leaders are available.
And how would you describe your relationship with China? Would you say it's the biggest security challenge for Australia at this point?
China is a very consequential relationship for all of us, and India understands that. And China is consequential in the world and in the region. The relationship we want with China is one where we can cooperate, where we can engage economically, but we continue to protect and assert our national interests. So I describe it to Australians as cooperate where we can, disagree where we must, and engage in the national interest, and that's the approach we take.
But do you see it as a strategic threat?
We see China, what I say is China will continue to assert its interests. And it's doing what great powers do, which is to assert its interests. The challenge for Australia is, and I suspect for some other countries, is that some of those interests don't align with our own. And so the question for diplomats is how do you manage that? How do you deal with that? And we deal with that in part through our other relationships. So how we envisage the Indo-Pacific is a region in balance, strategic balance, where various countries make a contribution to security that enables that balance, and India is central to that.
Yes, and it's also important to address the question of how these countries will respond if that balance is threatened. So if China were to make moves on Taiwan, would Australia intervene militarily?
I don't think any foreign minister is going to respond to hypotheticals. What I would say is Australia's position, and I think it is India's position, is that we don't want to see any unilateral change to the status quo.
Right. A new poll shows that Australians are now more concerned about US interference than China. Do you share that concern?
I don't know which poll you're referring to, but we believe in the resilience of our democracy and our democratic institutions. The US remains our principal strategic partner and ally. We will continue to engage with them. We will continue to engage with other partners.
So you think that those concerns are unfounded?
Well, I don't know what the poll is. Our democracy matters to us, and we'll always make sure it's resilient.
Has it been frustrating dealing with this US administration? And one has followed the sequence of events, the delay in setting a meeting with Prime Minister Albanese. It did happen, but there was talk in the Australian Parliament that this is a snub, or the talk about reviewing AUKUS, which caused quite a scare, or the tariffs, or the kind of comments that the US President had for your ambassador to Washington. Has it been difficult dealing with this Trump administration?
Look, we have differences of views, and you mentioned tariffs, and that's one of them. And I believe, that's probably where the Indian government has difference of views too. We're a country, we're a smaller economy, a middle-sized economy, which has done very well from open trade. So we have a long-standing position that we believe in predictable open trade and access to markets, just as we enable access to markets in Australia. And we would want more access to the Indian market. So we have a view about that. We have said publicly we don't agree with tariffs, that we think tariffs a disbenefit, that they are not good for consumers. So we'll continue to advocate that position.
So you agree that US tariffs on India are unfair?
We don't believe that there should be any tariffs as a general principle, and I think that's our position.
Yeah, but the reason given, the reciprocal tariffs and then the punitive tariffs for buying Russian oil, do you think that's a
Well,
bit
the
of a
Russian
stretch?
oil issue, yes, this is where Australia and India do have a different view. And you have a long-standing relationship with Russia. We respect that, but we have a different view. We don't agree with the conflict in Ukraine. We think it is illegal and immoral, and we have taken steps with many other countries to sanction Russia, including in relation to Russian oil. And we're pleased that we've seen moves in the private sector today to take account of, overnight, to take account of some of our concerns.
Right, but a lot has been said, of course, about how India started buying Russian oil, and that helped keep the global prices in check. And there was a time when the West was largely in alignment with India's position, and even
Yes.
this is a U-turn.
I don't know. I think that we all have to respond, make our decisions about how we respond to particular conflicts and events around the world. And we've taken that view, and we understand, and so have many other countries. I accept that it's not the same position that India has, and India has a historical, long-standing relationship with Russia.
The Russian president is expected to visit in a few days from now. Is that something that's going to come up in your conversations with your Indian counterparts? Is there a message that you bring for India?
India has its relationship,
Of course,
with Russia, and we have our view on Russia. These don't prevent us from working together in the wide and extensive areas where there is such great strategic convergence, and I think that matters. I don't think we should be focusing. I don't focus in my discussions with Dr. Jaishankar on Russia. We focus on the Indo-Pacific because that is where our future is, and that is where your future is, and that is where our stability and prosperity ultimately comes from. So that is the absolute priority in our discussions. Which is why the Quad matters so much.
Yes. We'll have to see where the Quad goes. I mean, there's been a lot of talk, but in tangible terms, what are the outcomes? A new study places Australia among the top 10 destinations for Chinese investment. So when you say that we have to protect our interests, how do you do that when dependence is so deep?
There's a number of aspects to that question. The first is economic diversification is absolutely part of our resilience, and we've made clear to the Australian business community that we want to continue to see more diversification. India is a very important part of that, so is Southeast Asia, and we've done a lot of work to try and increase our investment and trade ties in Southeast Asia since we came to government. That's going to be a very, fast-growing economy between now and 2030 and 2040. So diversification matters. Investment, we welcome investment that's consistent with our national interests. We obviously have made decisions about areas where, we welcome foreign investment, and areas where we do want to have a look at whether it's in our national interest. And I think we have a transparent framework which enables investors to see that foreign investment has been important for our country.
Are you worried that the South China Sea will be the next big global flashpoint?
I think we all worry about the potential for escalation in our region. And I've made the point that escalation can be because people actually escalate. Escalation can also be because people make inaccurate judgments about the meaning, the strategic intent behind the other's behaviour. So one of the things we have really put a lot of effort into is what ASEAN calls conflict prevention. And that is, how do you engage in de-escalation and military-to-military communication to try and remove basically a mistake. Now, obviously there are differences of different territorial claims and so forth. We think we need conflict prevention, and Australia has a long-standing view about international law. So UNCLOS, the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, is a norm that enables stability.
Right. I know we're out of time. I have to ask you this, just one last question. Why did Australia concede to Turkey on hosting COP31? Lots of comments from Pacific nations who say they're disappointed.
Look, the Pacific, we bid for this because we wanted to elevate Pacific voices and the experience of the Pacific. And if you have had the opportunity to travel in the Pacific, for Pacific Island people, climate change is not abstract. It is lived and real and here. And that they speak with such power and authenticity, and that voice, we wanted to give a greater platform to that experience in the international negotiations. Obviously, we're still resolving this. If Turkey continues to not budge, and there's no evidence it will, this will default to Bonn. And for Australia, we don't want it to go to Bonn without any Pacific issues on the agenda and without Pacific involvement. So we are looking at, in discussion with Pacific Island leaders, how do we forge an agreement which enables those Pacific issues to be on the agenda.
Right. Minister Wong, thank you very much for your time. I know
Great to
this is
speak
a short
with you.
visit, but lovely talking to you.
Thank you.